Hello everyone, it is time. We are finally entering the Voimastina major patch. But the first half banner is Alva, and Voimastina will be coming in the second half. So the question of the day is basically, should you be pulling Alva now or saving everything for Voimastina? And if yes, who or why you should consider pulling Alva? We will get into all of that plus our full kit, Vertebrae, team comps and everything you need to know in this video. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Starting with the TLDR as always, Alva is an ice support unit using the air weapon. One thing I want to mention right in the beginning, and this is more targeted towards newer players who don't have all the knowledge, Alva and Voimastina do not work together. Just because they are dropping on the same event patch doesn't mean they work alongside. They work in completely different and separate teams, so you don't need to pull for Alva if you just want Voimastina. This is easily known for those who play this game, but I still wanted to clarify this for any newer players if they are watching this. Okay, so coming back to Alva now, C is genuinely one of the most impactful supports in the game right now for the ice element, and honestly, the simplest way to describe her is C is basically the Springfield for the ice team. So yes, if you are building the meta ice team, then C is a core and essential member of it. C is not your DPS. Her job is to make your ice carries hit significantly harder through her core kit. And C does that primarily through two things. Her covering mode, which buffs your whole team's freeze damage against shielded enemies. Don't worry, C can put shield on enemies to make this useful. And C also launches interception attacks. The second one is her Brumal Barrier mechanic, which converts all ally shields into a special type of shield that amplifies freeze damage based on how much shield HP is being held. The more shield your team has, the harder they hit. So her kit syncs perfectly with the core mechanic of the ice team utilizing the shielding and interception mechanics. Before I talk about the pulling recommendation, I do want to mention here that building the full ice team is probably the lowest recommendation for full F2B players, as ice team is the costliest team to build with all limited units and multiple of them requiring multiple dupes to be competitive with other top tier characters, and is still the lowest used meta team archetype in CN. So do what you want with that info. But it shouldn't stop you from building it if you really like the dolls anyway, like I have always said. And it will also help you out in team building for the phase class elemental stages, and maybe they will become stronger soon. With that in mind, the pulling recommendation for Alva is pretty clear. If you are building or want to build the meta ice team with Macchiato, Suomi, Robella, etc., get Alva V0 period. C is basically required for the meta version of that team. If you have zero interest in the ice team and your resources are going elsewhere, then you can skip her. But if you do want her, V0 is already quite strong. The upper breakpoints that actually matter are V2 and V6. You don't have to go for them, but if you can, her V2 is extremely recommended as the first real meaningful breakpoint that impacts the full team because it generates confidence index for your other team members and can improve their skill rotations and damage outputs. And V6 is the big one, massively increases the DPS output of the entire ice team. So to summarize, V0 if you are interested, V2 for the dolphins who want to be a little more competitive, and V6 is the endgame target if you are investing deep. For a signature weapon, yes, big recommendation. It's a strong AR that directly boosts allied ice dolls' critical damage and general damage output, so the value on the team is very real and is actually recommended to go for right after getting her V0, which should be easier and cheaper than going for V2. That said, you do have decent free-to-play alternatives like Golden Melodies and Planetas that you have multiple, which are solid mid-tier options. But the signature is genuinely good and worth considering even beyond just Alva personally. Alright, let's talk about her skill kit. Her whole kit revolves around this shield and covering mode synergy, so let's break it down. Her skill 1 is a targeted freeze attack at 8 tile range, dealing 100% attack in freeze damage, but more importantly, it puts her into covering mode for 3 rounds. This is the big deal. While she is in covering mode, she boosts freeze damage dealt by all allies against enemies with shield effects by 20%, increases her own crit rate by 20%, and she launches an interception attack before any enemy with an 8 tile radius performs an active attack. That interception deals 60% attack in freeze damage and 4 stability damage, and converts 20% of that damage into Brumal Barrier for all allies. This can trigger up to 3 times per turn. So every time an enemy tries to act, Alva is basically countering them and simultaneously shielding your team. That's the passive value she brings on every enemy turn. Now, what is Brumal Barrier? It's a type of shield that absorbs damage equal to 200% of Alva's initial attack. The key property is when the holder deals freeze damage, for every 1000 shield HP they are holding, their damage dealt increases by 1.5%. So the more shield on your ice carries, the more they hit. And when the holder takes damage, it applies frozen to that attacker for one turn. So basically it's a shield that also acts as an offensive tool. You might still be wondering though about the freeze damage buff against shielded enemies from her covering mode. And how do we shield the enemies for that to actually work? And there comes her skill 2. This is an AoE summon skill. She selects an empty tile, consumes all her confectance index, and for every confectance index consumed, deals AoE freeze damage equal to 15% attack and 1 stability damage to all enemies in a 4 tile radius around the chosen tile. She also summons a liquid nitrogen fang on that tile for 3 rounds. Yo, she summons my liquid version, how can I not pull for her now? Anyway, the liquid nitrogen fang is a summon that stays on field and puts hypothermia onto enemies inside that AoE, which makes them take 20% more freeze damage. If an enemy within range is attacked, then a portion of their HP, which is equivalent to 500% of Alva's attack, gets converted into a special type of shield called Hoarfrost before they receive the attack. And that is how you put a shield on enemies to now utilize her covering mode buff. When an enemy within range gets their shield broken, Alva does freeze damage attack equivalent to 40% of the shield HP. Also, when Hoarfrost shield breaks, it puts Frostbite and Dismay onto the enemy. Frostbite increases their freeze damage taken by 20% again, and Dismay debuffs the enemy's attack by 30% and stab damage by 4. We are still not done with her skill 2 yet. If she has 3 stacks of battle prep, after using this skill, she consumes all 3 and gains extra command. We will know what this battle prep is soon. Her ultimate is a single target freeze attack at 8 tile range. Once again, she consumes all confectance index and deals freeze damage equal to 30% attack and 1 stability damage per confectance consumed. So the more confectance index is built up, the harder this hits. This is her main source of damage, and so she should get lots of confectance index fast. This leads to her passive nicely, which ties it all together. This increases the shield amount applied by all allies by 30% right off the bat, so everyone's shields are beefier. When any ally gains a shield, it is automatically converted into a Brumal Barrier with the same shield HP. So literally all shields on the team become Brumal Barriers and gets the buffs associated to it. And lastly, at the end of each action, she gains 3 confectance index and 1 stack of battle prep. And every time she launches an interception, she gains 1 additional confectance. So she is constantly building confectance index to dump into her S2 and alt. The whole kit is one cohesive loop. She summons liquid nitrogen fang with her S2, then enters covering mode with her skill 1, intercepts and generates Brumal Barriers for all allies. Allies deal more freeze damage because of those barriers and buffs. She builds confectance through her passive, dumps them into her S2 and alt, and then repeat. Clean and efficient. Now for Vertebrae, I mentioned V0, V2 and V6 are the real breakpoints, so let me quickly run through those important ones. V2 upgrades her ultimate's damage multiplier to 40% attack, but that's not the main part. After using the ult, she increases confectance index by 1 for all freeze units on the team, excluding herself. This is the meaningful one. It starts feeding confectance indexes to allies like Macchiato, which changes when they can use their stronger skills, like allowing below V6 Macchiato to use her skill 1 on turn 4 instead of S2. And with V1 already included in the V2, which can activate Alva's covering mode from her S2, she can also spam her ult more often. So if you are aiming for optimized rotations, this is the first real step. And of course, V6 is the big one. Brumal Barrier absorption is increased to 300% of Alva's initial attack, and when the barrier holder deals freeze damage, the damage increases and the crit damage increases from the per 1000 shield HP scaling are both doubled. This is a massive amplification of the entire shield based damage system. Your whole ice team gets significantly stronger. This is the whale target. For weapons, her signature 6p33 is the best in slot, as I mentioned before. It directly benefits allied ice dolls with crit damage and general damage improvements. And it also has the offensive supporting effects you want on a unit whose job is to make her teammates hit harder. If you are playing a serious ice team, the signature is the recommended pull on her. If you really can't go for the signature, your next best bets in order are Golden Melody, then Planeta. These are solid AR options for strictly free to play. At the end of the day, she is a support, so as long as your weapon isn't completely starving her attacks, she does her job. But if you have spare resources and are committed to the ice team long term, the signature investment does pay off, so try to get that if you can. For her build, the recommended set is Freeze Boost. This is the straightforward option. Phase Strike is the more universally farmable alternative if you are still building up your resources. Whichever set you already have farmed, get that on her. Stat priority is attack percentage first, then flat attack, then crit rate, then crit damage in that order. You want to target about 3500 plus attack, 80% crit rate and 160% crit damage for an endgame full build. Her best fixed keys are Key 2, Key 4 and Key 6. Key 2 gives her 3 competence and 3 stacks of battle prep at battle start. This immediately sets up her skill rotation better. Key 4 is her personal attack steroid from consuming battle prep stacks up to 18% attack, good for making her brumal barriers and interceptions hit harder. Key 6 increases stability damage taken by enemies near her liquid nitrogen fang by 2 points, great for stability damage pressure in fights. If you need Dispel for boss fights, Key 5 exists for that purpose on her ultimate, but it's situational. Stick with 2, 4 and 6 for general use. Besides her own common keys, she can use any good DPS sub-DPS common keys like Linds, Ulrids, Dosebnayars, etc. You don't need to rush her remolding core to 60, get it to 30 for now and upgrade further as needed. For remolding core flowers, you want Thronebreaker and Pinpoint specialization from red flowers, healing enhancement and attack unity from green, and HP enhancement or annular defense from blue. Alva slots into the meta ice team, which in the current state of the global server is built around Macchiato and Robella as your main DPSs, with Robella being the better hyper carry who you can pair really well with Alva as her partner. Then you got Dusebnaya and lastly Suomi as your healer. Suomi and Alva's shields as well as her buffs all work in tandem in this team composition. But as I mentioned in the start, this will not be the best meta team in the game, and even for it to be competitive, you need quite high investments like Alva V2C1, Maki V2C1, Robella V6 which you should probably borrow, as well as Suomi V2C1, and those can work at V0 I guess. This is a lot for a F2P build, which is why it's not very popular. The most F2P version that works is V0C1 Alva as mentioned here, at least V1C1 Maki and V1 Suomi. It's still costly as you can see, and it won't be the better team in compared to any other elemental teams, which is the same, and I want the Freeze team to improve. Do know that Suomi will be replaced by Helen when she arrives, and this will be the meta team then as it is right now in CN. And you will need Helen V3 for the best outcome there as well, so again not cheap. Her skill rotation at V0 is built around getting into covering mode as fast as possible. You generally want to open with her S2 followed by S1 and use her ults to dump competence indexes for big damage. The extra command she gains from S2 when you have 3 battle prep stacks is what lets you chain additional actions in a turn. At V2 the rotation becomes more streamlined as her S1 basically gets combined into her S2, and so you can now directly start spamming her ult after her S2 right from the start. V2 is where you start thinking about the team rotation more with the extra team-wide competence index generations, rather than just Alva in isolation. Alright, time for the final verdict. Alva is a very cool looking doll. She's got a great classy and professional design if that matters to you, and nothing should stop you from pulling her just for your collection. But on the meta side, here's the summary. If you are playing or planning to play the ice team with Macchiato and Robella, Alva is basically required for the meta version of it. She is the Springfield equivalent for ice, and the team genuinely performs at a different level with her in it. Get her V0 at minimum. As an F2P or low spender, V0 does the job. If you are not interested in the ice team and you are focused on other elements or saving for Voimastina, then skip her. She is a specialist support for one team and that team specifically. She won't slot into other elemental teams. The follow-up recommendation is to pick up her signature weapon. It's genuinely good if you are playing Freeze, just like Vector's was for Burn team and Springfield's for Hydro team, etc. It benefits the whole team's damage output. The first dupe upgrade worth saving for is her V2, since that's where the team rotation benefits really kick in. And V6 is the endgame investment if you are going all in. Everything in between is nice to have but not priority. Okay, but looking at the current situation as we know Voimastina is next, Should you even pull for Alva at all or just skip for Voimastina regardless? Here's my honest take. This only applies if you are building Ice Team by the way, because otherwise you are just skipping Alva anyway. Are you confirmed going for V6 Voimastina and skipping on Alva will give you that extra resources needed to guarantee that? Then okay, you can skip and go for V6 Voimastina straight as that's gonna put your account into easy mode. But if not, like me, I didn't pull V6 Klukai and probably won't pull V6 Voimastina and will just borrow those OP units but will probably just have them V0 in my account. Then there's no need to intentionally gimp your Ice Team by skipping Alva. You can safely get her at least V0 in this case. Ultimately it will depend on your team building choice, you want the variety of different teams or just the shortcut OP unit for all content. But this is just my thinking. And that wraps up the review for Alva. She is a clean, elegant support design that rewards you well for investing in the Ice Team, and honestly, if you like freeze as an element, she is a very satisfying unit to play. Let me know in the comments, are you pulling Alva for the Ice Team or are you saving everything for Voimastina and beyond? Would love to hear your plans. If you found this video helpful, feel free to drop a like and subscribe, hit the new hype button, join the channel membership or send a super thanks. Thank you all for watching and stay tuned for more Girls Frontline content. I'll catch you later. Goodbye.